Lots to speak about. Lots of news today. Obviously, we'll be speaking about the Israeli invasion of Gaza City, and the invasion of Gaza isn't going well. A number of Israeli casualties today. They've been ambushed at least 3 times. I'm also reading reports that there's a helicopter that's been 6 helicopters have been sent in to, uh, help the wounded in Gaza. So I'll obviously tweet that out as soon as I've given you guys done my monologue at the start. So there's that. We're going to be speaking about Turkey stopping Israeli trade. Have they stopped the trade? Is it something different? We have heard reports over the last 2 years about them stopping trades. Is this the big move that we've been waiting for? That is something else we shall be discussing. And US banned the Palestinian Authority from the United Nations. Huge move. Many people thought that the PA had a good relationship with the Israelis, the PA being in charge of the West Bank. That being said, even then, they've banned them from the UN, and the excuse they've given is just the most lamest excuses you can have. So we'll speak about all of those things. We'll get some panelists in to discuss the conversation as well. But just getting into the first bit, which is that with the impending Israeli invasion into Gaza City, obviously they have been making incursions into Gaza City, and that has continued. But what's happened is there's been a couple of intense clashes in northern Gaza. The Israeli soldiers, or a number of Israeli soldiers, were confirmed dead and many injured after the Palestinian resistance basically ambushed Nahal Bridge. The Israelis attempted to evacuate. Helicopters were under fire. Then we had a second ambush. The second ambush, which also killed and wounded Israeli soldiers. Once again, the Israeli evacuation forces came in to try and evacuate them, and they called this a major security incident. There was a massive influx of fighter jets into northern Gaza, and there were claims that there is a possibility that certain Israeli soldiers have been captured. Then there was a third ambush. Once again, the Israeli soldiers, there's a number of casualties from within the Israeli soldiers, many dead and wounded. Israeli media were talking about possibly triggering the Hannibal Directive, which, as you guys know, the Hannibal Directive is that they basically mass kill their own people to ensure that they don't be taken back as hostages, because they don't want any more Israeli hostages. So that's kind of a brief overview of what's happening in terms of the ambush. Sorry, and then after that, we heard reports that there were 6 helicopters that came in to evacuate the wounded from Gaza, and a new rescue plane landed in one of Tel Aviv's hospitals. But the event is still ongoing, so this fire and the return of fire is happening right now. Also, in other news, Turkey, and I'll speak on in a second. We had 2 big posts by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, who called out AIPAC. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, instead, because AIPAC did a tweet and they basically attacked Marjorie Taylor Greene, basically saying that, she's the same as the squad, or she's joined the squad, trying to insult her. So she said, quote, "Instead of lying about me, have all you foreign agents at AIPAC registered under FARA yet? Not only are you a bunch of liars, you are breaking the law." That is attempts by Marjorie Taylor Greene to call them out, to basically tell them to register under FARA as foreign agents, because they are a foreign lobby. Matt Gaetz came in. He also quote tweeted the same tweet, and he said, "This is the most fascinating ex post of 2025. AIPAC thinks it's an attack on MTG to accuse her of sharing the squad's unwillingness to be slavishly loyal to Israel. But what this attack reveals is that AIPAC has so badly overplayed their hand that they now have real problems on the political left and the right. The post literally advertises their greatest weakness, growing bipartisan opposition." The post, MTG isn't some outlier here. Support for Israel is at a historic doldrum, precisely because AIPAC has driven division, war, and chaos. They should register as foreign agents they are. I proudly stand with MTG and my fellow Americans. So that was golden call out. We also had what do you call it again? Secretary of State Marco Rubio has banned Palestinian officials from attending the UN General Assembly. Um, the and the irony of this is that the UN General Assembly, which Marco Rubio has banned the Palestinian Authority from, was the assembly where where there was going to be a number of countries that were going to recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. That includes Austria, Canada, France, Luxembourg, Malta, and possibly the UK. So the irony of or the craziness of him banning the PA for an event which is going to recognize them as a state is mind-boggling. And for those who don't know, the PA is in charge of the West Bank. They aren't even in charge of Gaza. And he said that they are banned until they give up their support of pursuing genocide charges against Israel and give up their pursuit of a Palestinian state. So basically what he's saying is that if they continue with their charges of genocide against Israel and they continue to want statehood and sovereignty, then we're going to ban them from the UN. So he's banned them for the very thing that the UN Assembly is going to be speaking about, which is giving them their own state. Mental. Guys, if you can do me a favor, retweet, reshare the space, let everybody know we're live. That would be awesome. And anyone who, anyone who quote tweets this tweet, I will retweet their quote tweets. Turkey also made a statement that they were planning to cut off all trade to Israel. They will not allow their ships to go to Israeli ports and have closed their airspace to Israel. So that's quite a bit of the news. Let me hear what the panelists are saying, and then we'll jump in with more of the conversation. But that's it, guys. Obviously, there is more news, but that's kind of largely the main points. There was also, what's that guy's name again? H3, where he's an Israeli Zionist, big streamer. His wife's an IDF agent. Well, it's been exposed that he was running a pedophile account.
Ezra Klein?
Is that his name? H3. From the
Yeah,
H3,
I just saw that myself. It's Ezra Klein.
I mean, huge Israeli Zionist with a wife in the IDF. That's Ezra Klein.
Yeah. He's got a wife. I don't know his real name. I think it's from the H3 podcast. But yeah, he's his wife's in the IDF. I remember saying something like, "Oh yeah, she found it fun to invade or raid Palestinian houses in the West Bank." So she's a psycho. Obviously, he's mental as well. But yeah, there's been leaks that he was running an account. Actually, let me read it. It seems like people are interested. So I did pull a tweet out about this. I saw it last night, and then scheduled Tuesday. But basically, he was running an account called Pedophile something. Where's the account? Okay, that's just a tweet, him making excuses about it. But yeah, he was basically saying, I have nothing to hide or apologize for after he deleted everything from the account. But it was basically a pedophile account that he ran. I think the name of the account was something pedo or something along those lines. I'll get some more information on that in a few secs.
They'll just send them back to Israel. That's what we do with pedophiles here. So
true, and then we make sure they don't have to.
They'll get a free private flight back to.
Yeah, they don't need to go to their court date, and they don't need to attend court, and then afterwards, when they have been caught, as opposed to court, then apparently, according to Sean King, the Trump administration have said that he's now got diplomatic immunity. Now, this is obviously from Sean King. Obviously, I trust him. I don't think he'll be making this up, but he says he's got this from a reliable source that the Trump administration now are saying that he's got diplomatic immunity. So this is going to be interesting. So Israeli officials can, if that is true, it means Israeli officials can come to the United States of America, rape children, go back, and they have diplomatic immunity. Absolutely mental. So yeah, let's jump in the conversation. Sarah, you jump in first. What's your thoughts about any of these topics?
I'm interested in the Ezra Klein thing because he's so gross, and so is his wife, and so this just makes a lot of sense. The UN thing, I said the same exact thing you did. They're desperate. They're going through every hoop they can to stop this vote on a two-state. I'm not really sure why, because it's not really like the end of the world if they vote on a two-state and they get one. But I don't know, man. This hold that Israel has over our administration is just wild at this point, wild. And I mean, we talked about the other thing last night, the Report It app. There's more stuff coming down the pipeline for that. They want to pull the early life sections off of Wikipedia because they're anti-Semitic. We're cooked, guys. We're cooked. Europe, save yourselves.
Sarah, real quick, I think it's Ethan Klein, right? Not Ezra is that other guy on like NPR.
Yes,
Oh yeah,
Ethan.
Yeah.
Ethan.
So
Yeah,
Ethan
yeah,
thank
so
Klein.
you.
he
Yeah,
was
Ethan
running an
Klein.
account called pedo_troll,
Yes,
and
I
it
saw
was
that.
on Reddit, and he was, I guess, trolling with it, as well as also trying to divert traffic to his show or promoting his show with that account. And he got busted. So yeah, pretty embarrassing. But
Yeah, let
yeah,
me read
it's
his. Let me read his statement on that. Actually, it'll be banned. And also, what was it again? Yeah, isn't Ezra Klein the Tommy Robinson guy, the one who wants to cause a civil war in the UK? So anyway, this is what H3 said. He said, "My friends." Oh wait a sec. So you're 1 second. Murat, you're right. It was he did say the account was called pedo_troll, which is completely very Zio of him. And he says this as a response when he gets caught. Quote, "My friends, I have a terrible confession to make. Yes, it is true. My 15-year-old Reddit account was identified by using a doxing website that lists a history of all emails and passwords that have been leaked in illegal data breaches. A post last night was made on the Snark subreddit by the person who obtained this information. With Reddit's help, this person was able to disseminate this illegally and malicious obtained information to a community whose sole purpose is to harass me, my family, and my employees. In doing so, some terrible revelations were made. I'm laughing because he's playing the victim. How do they do it? Like
People
this is
work for him? Who is working for Ethan Klein? I want to talk to his employees.
yeah, they're gonna have some mental stuff on him, but just isn't this the Zio thing, guys? Like what? Whenever something happens, they're the victims. Like nobody else is the victim. Like he's running a pedo account, he's perpetuating pedophilia, but he's the victim. Absolutely mental. Anyway, he goes, "Yes, my account username, pedo_troll, made a few bizarre and edgy attempts at being funny. It was common on Reddit 15 years ago to create a thematically named troll account to post silly things from. The method was to have Redditors read something crazy, then check the username and realize it was a goof. You can see the evidence of this on most of the posts made in character. These troll stories include anecdotes that clearly never happened, including a story that references my children who were born 10 years later. Further evidence of this is simply that I was self-promoting my YouTube channel while doing these parody posts. I knew I was personally I knew I was personally identifiable the entire time. Huh? So he's claiming that he was identifiable the entire time, but then claims he got doxxed. I was trying to be funny so people would look at my account and discover my YouTube channel. I was not ashamed of it then, and I'm not ashamed of it now. Embarrassed, yes. On par with cringing at my old YouTube videos. Yes, there are a few posts of me, quote, being a Zionist Jewish supremacist, which includes me mostly arguing with someone calling Israel Nazi Germany. So he's actually been like he's been a Zionist Jewish supremacist in that post, and that's different to the way he acts now. Um, I don't understand that. In totality, about 95% of the posts were about StarCraft 2 or self-promoting my YouTube channel. I have nothing to hide and nothing to apologize for. Remember, folks, joking about pedophilia is not the same as having it on your computer. Why has he got on his computer as well? But I think that's an attack on his other Zionist friend, Destiny, who I believe had something on his computer that was pedophilic in nature. Why? Why? It's just a consistent thing with these people. Anyway, guys, do retweet, reshare the space. I forgot to retweet everybody. I'll do it now. In the meantime, Ian, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's just layer after layer after layer after layer of consistent behavior that should have everybody arriving at similar conclusions. And I don't want to ever suggest that all people are anything, but there is this recurring theme throughout all of the story arcs that you just laid out there that happen to resolve or revolve, I should say, around a similar group of people, and this willingness to either get caught in the act and then look back at the people who then accuse them of committing the act that they're watching them commit and say, don't blame me. It's not my fault. Let me kind of dance around verbally and try and justify the actions. And if you won't, then It's because you're bigots and you don't have empathy for me, and on and on and on. And we can see this at the individual level or layer with this individual that I guess is prospectively running a pedophile account on social media, which is, of course, sick. But it's this at a larger level. We can look at what's going on right now in Gaza, where they're going in, and let's not forget, they are essentially ethnically cleansing an entire group of people that, if Netanyahu then has his way, ironically are going to get shipped to the very West that for the last year and a half they've basically been called anti-Semites and or bigots and or terrorists if they have not celebrated the ethnic cleansing of these people, the Palestinians, because Israel labels them terrorists. So let's think about this for a moment. You've got a nation trying to justify a genocide on the basis that the people they're mass murdering are dangerous terrorists. And we can see where this is going to go, because fast forward in 6 months, and you will be the domestic terrorist and or anti-Semite if you're not welcoming the people they just called terrorists into your backyard. These things obviously cannot go together. And that's the thing that's most infuriating about this consistent pattern of behavior. It's not just things like, say, murder, or in this case, pedophilia, prospectively, with this individual or the Jewish individual that worked for Netanyahu that we all saw get caught, I guess, just 2 weeks ago out in Las Vegas. It's not just the crimes, it's the willingness to outright lie about them, to gaslight everybody, to suggest things, and then the very next sentence say something that's antithetical to what you were just told. And then, of course, to be called a bigot if you don't just nod your head, accepting the insanity. And the wildest piece of all of it, as an exemplary indicator, is this notion that now that the EU and European nations are starting to look around and say, I don't like this situation between America and Israel. It seems really genocidal. It seems like it's really dishonest. Now that some nations have the audacity to stand up and be somewhat critical, is the desperation to say, no, the Palestinians shouldn't even have a seat at the table to have a voice in the conversation. And the reason is because the people getting caught with their pants down, they can't even take the criticism that they're involved in the genocide and the pedophilia. They have to essentially be untouchable, which is why the United States is now seeing prospectively censorship, not only on social media, but also the criminalization prospectively of critique of Jews, of Israel, of Zionism, of whatever it's going to be, as we see literal Israeli flags held up, which, again, we talked about this just yesterday, this idea of hypocrisy. The crucifix is banned in all schools because it, of course, is a religious icon. The Israeli flag can no longer be burned because it is a quote unquote religious icon, because it has the Star of David, I suppose, if not the Star of Remphan, if you want to go down a different tangent. But ironically, it's not the crucifix, but the Israeli flag that's now being hoisted over all of the schools in Beverly Hills, California, because I guess religious iconography is perfectly permitted when it's associated with a foreign nation, but if it's the one that's actually the majority of the religion of the host nation, that of course is domestic terrorism and or extremism and or white supremacy. So it seems, again, at every turn that we just see endless hypocrisy, endless gaslighting, and on top of it, endless behavior that is obviously immoral. So we're basically seeing the destruction of the good. You could almost you could call it the inversion of the good, where now the liars, the psychopaths, the sociopaths, and the murderers are the heroes of the story, as those who dare have the audacity to critique it become the villains. And so we live in this inverted world. It must change. It must end. And in some ways, the audacity of the present is probably the best inhibitor of the future that they want to try and bring about, because everybody is starting to notice these patterns. And people that even perhaps don't like the way that I discuss these things, like Sarah, the two of us can be on this panel and agree this is getting to the point of ludicrousness that we all have to be able to condemn. And if we can't, then we can't even claim ourselves not just righteous people, not just moral people, but even just basic, honest people. Because the lies at this point are getting so egregious that anybody that parrots them is obviously either a shill, they're a liar, they're a psychopath, or they're a sociopath. But I don't want anything to do with any of those people. And as a result, as always, I like to say this, I'm glad that I'm just up here, even amongst our differences, whether it be the gender, the religion, the skin color, the whatever. We just have a rudder that orients us towards a North Star that is speaking the truth and trying to build a better tomorrow, which for whatever reason, it does seem like there is one group of people that seem completely incapable of that. I don't know why it is. We could go into religion, we could go into genetics, we can go into all those things, but we don't have to, because what we can point to is just the behavior, which obviously is demonstrative of that pattern. It must end. I believe the only way to righteously do that is with what we're doing right now, by bringing awareness, bringing attention, and getting anybody and everybody, as uncomfortable as these things might be, to merely have the willingness to stand up and say, genocide is bad, lying is bad, subverting a nation is bad, impoverishing and enslaving its people is bad. And if that's being done by Zionist Jews, we need to condemn it. And I think we're honestly making the moves little by little, day by day. Our growing intellectual and spiritual army of people that just want to make the world a better place become more aware. And as we do, our voice gets louder. The people that don't want to listen have to. And then eventually, even those that are really reluctant because they think it might be really inflammatory to consider some of these positions, they start coming around to them. So, as always, I'm glad to be up here. I'm so thankful for the space, Suleiman. So thankful for all the people that will speak out against it, and really thankful for everybody that's listening in.
Appreciate that, Ian. And yeah, on point. I agree with what you said there. Some more breaking news. We mentioned the 6 helicopters evacuating Israeli soldiers that were wounded in Gaza. A rescue plane also just landed in Tel Aviv's hospital. But also, we've got another report that tweets in the nest 4 Israeli soldiers are missing in Gaza. So 4 Israeli soldiers missing in Gaza. I don't know if they've been taken in by the resistance or what's happening. Have they got more hostages now? So yeah, the invasion in Gaza doesn't look like it's going well for the Israelis at this point. It's a bit different when you're not bombing from the air. Um, and that being said, guys, as I said, if you can retweet, reshare the space, I will, and retweet that tweet as well if you can for me. That would be awesome. About the 4 Israeli soldiers, let the Israelis know. Although I spelled it wrong, but you know what? It is what it is. People could think I'm yeah, I can't bother changing it. It is what it is. So, guys, if you can retweet that, that would be awesome. The tweet and the space, and quote tweet the space, that would be even more fire. Ian, we can jump in? Oh, it was a thumbs up. Right, okay. So, can you do a thumbs up on it? Oh, you can, yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah, if you can do that for me, that would be awesome. Let's go to Mr. Oswald. Mr. Oswald, Sir Oswald, jump in with your thoughts.
Yeah, Suleiman. Yeah, I don't know what's going on basically with the axis of resistance right now. What do you think is going to happen within, because Iran basically has said it's not going to do anything when the Lebanese government says that they're going to disarm Hezbollah. I don't know if they're going to do that, but Iran said that's just internal politics. That doesn't involve us. Yeah, so it's not really looking good in the axis of resistance space. What is your thoughts on the future of the war, and I mean outside of Palestine, within the region of Lebanon, Iran, and etc. Do you think it's going to be they can come to a deal? Of course not. But do you think we're going to see any war anytime soon between Iran and Israel?
Yeah, I think you've asked a very important question, and I think we should explore it in the space as well. So I'll give you my thoughts, and then maybe Sarah, Murat, Ian, Dennis, public might want to give their thoughts as well. I know there's Fehla Kuti who wants to maybe jump in as well about something. So you've clearly got 3 specific areas where Israel definitely wants to escalate tensions and conflict. And I don't mean Syria, because quite clearly Syria isn't one of those anymore. And so when you look at those 3 specific places, you realize that what is the plan. So I think, you know what, like, obviously you guys know that I disagree with Mario from a political perspective. That being said, he did get like a golden interview yesterday, and the interview, I don't know if it was accidental or not, but it really exposed a lot of things. He did it with Tom Barrack, the US envoy to Syria. If you remember, there were reports out yesterday, the day before, where he disrespected a number of the Lebanese journalists, basically telling them to be civilized, calling them animals, essentially. So some of the things he said was, and it was interesting, was this. He said, we need to support, this is from the United States, remember, he's the US envoy. So he said, we need to support this young man, President Ahmed al-Sharaa, and his team with resources, accountability, and inclusivity. So what that tells you is there's clearly a plan for them to have good, and we knew that anyway, but this is confirming, this is being confirmed by the US envoy to Syria. He also said, so he was asked, everyone's question is this: a Sunni radical Nusra fighter became president of one of the region's key countries. Do you trust him? Do you believe him? And he said, the short answer is yes, I trust him. Yes, I believe in him. He also said, in Syria, there's PKK and YPG. Right now, all three letter groups hate me, so I stay away from them. He's talking about, obviously, the rival faction groups. And what was the other point he made? Okay, he said about Ahmad al-Shara. They said, oh, Ahmad Shara doesn't fully trust Israel's intentions. Nobody trusts Israel's intentions. So this is like a wider issue throughout the region. Uh, And in terms of borders and security, because remember, we talk about the Greater Israel Project, and sometimes they try and make us look like conspiracy theorists, even though Netanyahu basically had a picture of the great. He actually mentioned recently the Greater Israel Project and how they want to enact that project. That being said, he admitted it. He goes, in Israel's minds, sorry, in the mind of Israel, these lands that were created by Sykes-Picot are meaningless. Talk about the Israelis. They will go where they want, when they want, and do what they want to protect the Israelis. So he's clearly confirming something that we knew implicitly, where we're trying to find pieces of a puzzle and say, look, they're trying to do the Great Israel Project. Oh, look, they're trying to do the Great. Oh, Netanyahu has just said that he wants to expand Israel, and he's done a picture of the Great Israel Project. Here is the US envoy clearly stating, for Israel, there's no such thing as borders. There's no such thing as sovereignty. There's no such thing as lines. Israel does what it wants. This is his words. Israel does what it wants, when it wants, how it wants. So that should say all of it. Another I thought was a big one, this one I did actually tweet out myself, was he said about al-Shara. He said al-Shara is running to a dialogue with Israel. That is embarrassing, right? He said he's running to a dialogue, so showing extreme weakness, like he's desperate. So he said al-Shara is running to a dialogue with Israel. We've now had 2 meetings, historic meetings. So again, we mentioned about the meeting, but this is being confirmed that Israel and al-Shara have had 2 secret meetings. And then he said they haven't talked for 30 years, speaking about Syria. So when Bashar al-Assad or the Assad family were in charge of Syria, they never talked to the Israelis. This is according to the US envoy to Syria, Tom Barrack. But he says, so they've never talked for 30 years, but now al-Shara is running to a meeting with Israel, and he's had 2 historic meetings. And he said this, I have to tell you, it blew my mind. The first meeting was 3.5 hours. They were so good with each other, not agreeing with each other, but engaging in those first steps of body chemistry to see, can we get to a place where we can agree on 1 or 2 things? And they did. So al-Shara is leaning in and saying to the Israelis, I have to appease all my neighbors. So, look, you can disagree with Bashar al-Assad, and you can be sectarian if you want, whatever it may be, but this has been my major issue, that if he is normalizing relations quite clearly with Israel, that is highly problematic. You've taken Syria out of the equation. You've then normalized situations with Israel. I know some people are sectarian, so for them, they care more about this. Why is this guy hands down at me? I know he's sectarian. I know he's a Zio. He spots Israel. But the thing is, why are people able to do it? I don't even follow these nerds. What's going on? How are they able to do this? Anyway, the problem is that this is the issue, yeah? You've not got these guys in the end want to normalize with Israel. They'll support their people if they normalize with Israel. One thing about us is we're always consistent. No matter where the Zios are, no matter whose side they're on, we will always be on the same side. If hypothetically they were ever on the same side of Iran, we would be on the opposite side. We're never on the same side as Zios. This is what you don't understand. But these people will be on the side of Zios if it benefits them. And so we just vehemently disagree with that. It clearly shows the expansionist project. They already, Israel have said that anything below what was it, Damascus, that they want it to be demilitarized and they're going to take control of it. They also have plans to take over the David corridor in Syria as well. So those were the important, I would say, points from that interview that I thought what that had occurred. So I'd mention it. There's a few more interesting points as well. He talks about how Turkey's been, which is a bit strange from this, but he said Turkey's been a fantastic ally. Turkey's misunderstood. Turkey has been a staunch friend and an ally of ours through everything. They are also the biggest contributor to NATO besides the United States of America. So he also mentioned that as well. He also mentioned that Iran has never been so weak. Trump and Israel have put them on the back foot. This is obviously propaganda. B-2 bombing of Iran's nuclear sites were an appetizer. If you want to mess with us, this is what you're going to have. So this was like some of the points that were made um, in that interview. But what it does is it kind of gives us an insight into what's happening in that region and the psychology of what's happening. So bringing it back to Lebanon, because that was the question you asked. Or should I talk? Oh, wait, let me see what other people's thoughts are on this, and then I'll go about that, because I'll go on for another 10, 15 minutes talking about that. Ian, Sarah, Morat, do any of you guys want to jump in on that conversation?
I mainly came up to speak on the Turkey-Israel news, so I'll let Sarah and Ian take this
Well,
one.
you could jump in on that, because you've got the Turkey news, which is that Turkey stops Israeli trade. But then we also have this statement from the US envoy to Syria, who says that Turkey is the biggest contributor to NATO. So go ahead, jump in.
Well, I mean, Patrick Bet David kicking off Turkish-Israeli tensions is like the goofiest geopolitical story of the year so far. I when it happened, I thought that Turkey would or rather, Israel would be getting an angry phone call from Turkey. Now, Turkey is a bit of a diva. Anytime the Armenian genocide is mentioned, they typically will hang and kind of and they'll recall an ambassador or something, but they'll overreact and kind of make a show to let people know that we're not playing around with this. So this was a little bit stronger of a reaction than I was expecting. I don't expect it to last long. Like I said, I think it's more of a it's just intended to be a strong reaction for everyone to see to kind of remind people, don't bring this up, don't put this on us. And the other interesting thing that happened as a result of this is Nikol Pashinyan, the prime minister of Armenia, who recently signed the deal with Azerbaijan. He said Netanyahu's statement does not reflect the interests of the Armenian people or the Armenian nation. So, fascinating development there. Basically, Armenia is standing with Turkey, to everyone's chagrin. Suleiman, I don't know if you also saw, but the other news that came out this morning was that the Armenian foreign minister had a phone call with the Pakistani foreign minister about possibly opening diplomatic relations. So your people may finally recognize my people's country. But yeah, I mean the changes and reverberations have been pretty interesting. But the to go back to my main point, I think the Turkish reaction here is mainly for show. I don't expect it to stand. Now I have also been kind of predicting the coming tensions between Israel and Turkey as a result of Syria. I think there will be a coming showdown at some point in a reckoning. But yeah, this was just an interesting little tidbit that Netanyahu threw out. I don't know how prepared he was for this interview or if this was intentional, but it is certainly important to notice.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that. What's gone? Ian or Sarah, do you guys want to jump in on the quick conversation we had with
So
Syria before I go into
there's
the?
a boat has already left Turkey for Israel. So like a ship, like a cargo ship. So like they're only closing their skies to military flights. So they're not closing their skies to anything, just
No, it's
military and
it's a show.
military cargo.
Yeah, it's mostly a show. It's mainly kind of for everyone else's eyes to kind of just remind them how dramatic they'll get anytime the genocide's mentioned.
Yeah, and guys, we do have it's confirmed by Al Jazeera as well. You do remember I mentioned about the 4 missing Israeli soldiers, and Al Jazeera correspondent says, "quote A state of stormy madness in the ranks of the Israeli army. 4 soldiers missing so far in Gaza. A number of casualties, which includes deaths and injuries. This is in relation to the Israeli invasion into Gaza. These incidents have happened in northern Gaza. It's not looking good for Israel on the ground. This is why they've always bombed from the air and murdered men, women, and children, because on the ground they've always struggled. We've always mentioned this, right? That when it comes to from a military perspective, on the ground they've always suffered. Now the difference was that Hamas wasn't a kind of like organized um, army with significant weaponry, as per, for example, Hezbollah, and therefore this is why they were able to make significant amount of movement. Even then, many of the mistakes they made previously in their invasion into Lebanon, they were making the same mistakes again. If you remember, I said that what they would do is they would bomb over the air, and because they'd bomb over the air, it caused a lot of rubble. Their tanks wouldn't be able to get through the rubble. Then they'd have to get basically bulldozers to remove that rubble, and then there'd be open season for any person to take them out. This happened a lot in South Lebanon in the 2006 war. They did this a lot in Gaza as well, and this is how, whenever, remember, you see myself or a few other people post out these videos of like people from the resistance jumping in and just taking out a tank. That's because the tank, largely speaking, is just stuck there because of the rubble, because of various other things. So those mistakes they made, because they're such a retarded army, they make the same mistakes again. Now, with Gaza, they've been able to succeed because of the majority of Gaza is women and children. And with Gaza, they succeed. Not they haven't succeeded, but what I mean is they did a slightly better job compared to Lebanon, where they got absolutely destroyed. But now what you're seeing is after 2 years of attrition, you've basically got the resistance who have massively expanded their abilities, massively expanded their the way they deal with the Israelis, and you've seen now this specific invasion today. There's been at least 4 ambushes, a number of Israelis dead and injured, at least 4 missing, number of helicopters, 6 helicopters came in to get the wounded, 4 missing, and this is just the point, right? That they are going to be struggling with the invasion into Gaza. And so what are they going to do? And this has been our argument from the beginning. They're never going to be able to get rid of Hamas. This is an impossibility. And so the only way you would ever get to a scenario where Hamas were no longer in control of the Gaza Strip is solely based on an agreement. So it would be agreeing a peace agreement, which is what Hamas want. And this is also being confirmed that every single time, this is by Matthew Miller, again, Zionist guy, was a complicit in the genocide with the Biden regime. But after leaving and having all of that blood on his hands, he's like, guess what, guys? Actually, what happened was every time there was a negotiation, Hamas always agreed, and Israel intentionally
Thanks for letting me know. I did not realize that. Crap.
Militarized, which essentially, when they say that, what that means is they take control over it. They can take control of the whole land. So how do they do that? So I've explained they can't do it militarily because of
Is
the
that
lack
better?
of
Never
military
married. Can
ability
you
that
hear
they
that
have.
now?
They can't do nothing without the
Thanks for
support of the
letting me
United States of
know.
America, and America's not putting boots on the ground at the moment. So
I
what
want.
can
I
they
have
do?
the tab
So
playing, so
they tried the
I'm
other
using
plan, which is
OBS.
to
It
cause
sucks.
civil unrest or civil war within Lebanon between Hezbollah and the Lebanese government, because the Lebanese government is very much more aligned with Israel. They want good relations with Israel. They have a lot of agents of Israeli agents within there. You know that guy, what's his name, who's on Marius platform? He's an example of it, but I forgot his name now. Um, and so you basically got where they're trying that. And part of that is to say Hezbollah needs to give up all of their military weapons, give up all of their defensive ability to no longer resist. And so the aim is that what they want is to either cause civil war and they come in and take over, as per what they did in Syria. I know that wasn't civil war, that was external, but what I mean is a kind of conflict that destroys the country. Or the other one is Hezbollah agrees, they give them a weaponry up, and then they intake all of the land up to the Litani River as a minimum, likely all the way up to Beirut as well. Which was the objective when they invaded. If you remember at that time, military experts were saying they're gonna go to Beirut. This is what Israelis were saying. We're gonna go to Beirut. We're gonna go to the Litani River, and that clearly was the plan. And so that's what I believe the plan with Lebanon is. So will they attack Lebanon if Hezbollah do not give up their weapons and there isn't civil war specifically? They'll go in. Obviously, if there's civil war, they'll still go in, but it means that they're not the main they're not the main fighters within the area. They're basically scooping up like they did with Syria. So that's what I think is going to happen with Lebanon. Obviously, I'll go with Iran in a second, but let's hear what Sarah and Riyadh have got to say about that, and then we'll talk about Iran as well. Go ahead, Sarah.
Let Rayed go first because he's probably going to speak directly about Lebanon. But I wanted to ask you something else. Go ahead, Rayed.
Jump in.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Yes, absolutely, Suleiman. Accurate. And then what I would say when it
Of
comes to
course, it's
Lebanon.
accurate, right? Of course, it is, my brother.
I know, Sheikh Suleiman. So let me tell you. So when it comes to Lebanon, yes, absolutely. I think the problem with the Israelis and the decision making amongst them, they first of all they lie to their people, they lie to themselves, they lie to the Americans, as per their success in weakening Hezbollah, and they call it decapitation and the whole beeper and all that. They think they really have believed that Hezbollah is weak. That's one thing. The other thing is that they do not understand and they underestimate what Hezbollah stands for, their ideology, and what it means to be, dignity. It's just dignity. We will not relinquish our weapons. It's a matter of dignity. We're ready to die, and that's something they've never understood. It's like when they don't understand when it comes to Gaza resistance. They just don't. So yes, they're trying everything within Lebanon. They tried to come in from the ground. They bombed from the sky. I was in Beirut. Now I'm not, but I'm going back. And then now they try to, through the government with the bullying of the Americans, to get our Lebanese army to disarm Hezbollah. Hezbollah, under estimations of many experts, and what I know for a fact, we're talking about at least 75,000 to 100,000 trained, and many of them, a large majority, is battle trained, like battle experienced, because of the 14 years in Syria. So these people are hardcore paramilitary force that is serious. Even serious American military experts will tell you they're really hardcore. Plus, when you're defending your land, when you're defending your family, when you're defending your dignity, you're even stronger in terms of your spirit. No, they tried to come in with 70,000 troops on the southern border, and they were defended by really a few. Hezbollah did not show his whole force at all, because it's a resistance force, and actually the orders were to the borders, let them come in, because this is how resistance works. It's guerrilla warfare. When you let them come in, you have more targets. But these people were so angry at losing Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, were just like, you know what, no, they're not coming in. So yeah, Hezbollah remains a very powerful force. On the facing it, the Lebanese army and has 75,000 soldiers, but they're really hardened, well trained. We're talking 5 to 6,000. There is no way, they don't have the weaponry to even attempt at coming against Hezbollah. Plus, the chief of staff yesterday or today said he's willing to quit if he is forced to do that thing, because it's Lebanese killing Lebanese. Now they're trying that. The other thing that they're going to try, they
Just more
have,
breaking news,
yeah,
right? Then I do want you to continue because what you're saying is extremely interesting and extremely
cool.
important. Guys, some more breaking news. This tweet is in the nest. One Israeli soldier confirmed dead, 9 injured, and 4 missing. But then I wrote this. This is according to Israeli sources, so we know the real number is a lot more. So Israeli sources confirming at a minimum one Israeli soldier dead, and 9 injured and 4 missing. That tweet's in the nest. Retweet it, reshare it for me. Much appreciated. Back to you, Red.
Okay, thanks. So yes, they're trying. So actually, they're throwing everything at it and see what sticks. There is the Lebanese army possibility attacking Hezbollah to get their weapons off. It's very narrow, but you never know. There is also the HTS people coming from the east towards Lebanon, also to do certain sabotage, terrorism, get the resistance busy, distraction, and then they might get that in action, but they don't have hopes because these people cannot also come against Hezbollah. Hezbollah fought them in Syria and really, really annihilated them, and that's why they retreated to Idlib in 2018. So these are two options, and the other one is also civil war. They did it in 1975. They were able to trigger a civil war in Lebanon, and we lived through it for 16 years. That's what the Israelis do. And I also think that any action underground will be supported by air bombardment through from the Israelis. They're very good at dropping shit from the sky, and they love doing it. That's gonna happen. And the whole objective for them is like they have three patches of resistance in the area that hinder their hegemony under the Greater Israel Project. They have Yemen; they need to take care of that. Absolutely. They have Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and then they have some factions of resistance, Al Hashd al-Shabi and Kataib Hezbollah of Iraq, because they want to get to the head of what they call the octopus, and the head of the octopus is Iran, and this is the whole project. And when it comes to that, they want to involve the Americans because they cannot go towards Iran by themselves. Yes, thanks, and I'll be around to share more. Thanks.
Appreciate it. And guys, just on the invasion into Gaza. So as we explained, this is the start. Was sort of like the start of the invasion into Gaza. So the invasion into Gaza, and what the Hebrew media or the Israeli media are describing, is that the attack today was a preemptive strike before the main Israeli operation for the entire occupation of Gaza City starts. So essentially, this is the pre-strike before the main invasion, and so this was extremely important. So their pre-strike has failed miserably, as we said, a number of casualties, a number of deaths, a number of injuries, four soldiers missing, possibly taken as hostages. It's not going well for them in their preemptive attack. So yeah, that's in terms of what's happening right now. We'll continue to give you the news as and when we receive it. Let me just check if there's any more updates. If there's anybody reads any more updates as well, just jump in with it, because obviously I'm speaking a lot on the space, so I might miss something. They said the Israeli army has opened an immediate investigation into the incident. So far, the four soldiers have now been found, and their fate is unknown, and they've lost complete contact with them. So, not looking good for the Israelis in their preemptive invasion into Gaza City. Not going well at all. Okay, cool. Giddy, you gonna jump in with something?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on, because we did Syria and then Lebanon. In the last week, we had a lot of activity in the Druze sector of Syria. I was wondering if you had any updates on that, or maybe Raed. I know they declared a state, or the movement for the state with the support of Israel the other day, so that kind of complicates things a bit further.
Yeah, I read, and I let Red jump in. Actually, go on, Jared. You jump in, and then I'll jump after that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so their objective when it comes to the Druze patch, meaning southern Syria, because they already have the Golan Heights, they took the Mount of Hermon, that's very important for them, but they also want to create some sort of corridor to patch with the Kurdish area that is eastern Syria. And so what they did with the Druze community was like crazy. Seriously, the Druze are mostly nationalistic. They're Syrian. They're against Israel. They believe they're Arabs. They have a national identity that is Syrian Arab. But there was a part of the Druze community that was infiltrated, and the Druze just are a tiny minority. There's 2.7 million across the globe of them, and and a minority like that gets banded together strong in terms of preservation. So some of them were like, you know what, let's not antagonize Israel. Let's play nice. Let's be part of Israel. It doesn't matter as long as we keep, like what happened in 1948. That's why there is Druze inside Israel. They stayed in Palestine, and they became Israelis just to save their community, right? So what happened? They launched HTS on them and slaughtered, it was it was terrible. It was ugly as you can imagine, until the point where most of the Druze were like, you know what, between Israel and HTS, maybe Israel is our better bet. So now they're asking for some sort of autonomy, but under I don't know if auspices is the right word, but under the protection of the Israelis, and eventually the Israelis will get what they want. Then they have a peaceful people where they can uh, open this corridor from the Golan Heights into Konaitra and that area, and then onto Al Tanf base. Al Tanf base is very important. It's an American base. It is located on the corner that meets Jordan, Iraq, and Syria. And from there, they can open a straight line onto the Kurdish area. Because at the end of the day, the Israelis, what they want out of Syria is to divide it into little statelets of sects. The Kurds, which is ethnicity and sect, if you will, the Druze, a sect of Islam, and then a couple of Sunni parts, and then Alawite parts on the coast, and then eventually they can rule that way, and that's what they want in Lebanon. They want to give the Christians a little statelet, and the Sunnis a little statelet there. They want to get rid of the Shias because they're indomitable. It's just what it is, and that's the whole project, and that's what's going on with the Druze. It's that's what's going on in that area.
If I could interject as well, I agree with you, and there's a plan that came out in the 1980s. It's called the Oded Plan, which is basically to divide the Middle East between sectarianism. So as to use sectarianism, divide and conquer. It's an old adage. It's an old military tactic or strategy, I would say. So that that the West have used to colonize the Latin America and other places. So that's basically what we're trying to do. Like, so whenever you see like Israelis come on spaces, they talk about like, oh, look what the Arabs do to the Copts. What Copts is a religion. I don't even know what they're talking about over there. The Copts, the Chaldeans, uh, the Druze. There's many sects in the Middle East, and I also think that the Arab nations, the especially the powerful ones, the Gulf, they do themselves a disservice by overlooking those minorities in the Middle East, because they always use those minorities, whether it's the Baloch in Iran, or the Baloch, the Kurds, and the Arab also minorities in Iran as well, to divide that country as well. So it's divide and conquer as usual.
Yeah. The only thing I want to add on, just before I do, um, got a huge super chat here. Let me just read it out. £25. And guys, if anybody wants to support the space via super chat, the super chat's in the nest above me. Or if anybody wants to comment read out, the super chat is above me in the nest. Arabs are foolish for believing Jelani was on a quest to free Palestine and the rest of the Muslim world of Western imperialism. Unfortunately, the fact says otherwise, and Jelani has only helped accelerate the greater Israel expansion. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, and
Yeah.
so and so I was just gonna mention a point about. Sorry, Oswald, were you gonna jump in? Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
was,
would say like there's so much propaganda coming from either the Gulf or also from Israel. I just recently saw a video, right, of this lady getting interviewed. She's a Syrian girl, and she's talking about how she was raped by Hezbollah, and just like probably fabricated and all by Hezbollah.
yeah, Red, jump in, and then I'll give my point.
Yeah, I just want to quickly just unpack something important that I discussed this today, but on an Arab space. We have to understand one thing about the Israelis, and like Suleiman said, their hubris and their delusional thinking, and also that Netanyahu cares about Netanyahu mainly. Netanyahu cares about staying out of jail. Netanyahu cares about keeping his coalition in the government, and Netanyahu's priorities are what's good for him, number one, and then number two, what's good for Israel. And looking at the Israeli army, look, these guys, and we've always known, they don't do well with extended days and months of war. They don't have what it takes, and then internally their society starts fracturing. There would be a lot of people refusing to go into service, and then the casualties they're suffering are no joke. Although their media is completely censored by the army. The army decides, even if you want to write an article within Israel, you send it to the army approves it, or edits it to send it out. Now, the problem with these 20 months of war, with using your heavy military equipment. I'll give you an example. If an F-16 or an F-35 flies for 1 hour, it needs 17 hours of maintenance. The tanks, the same thing. The amount of hours you operate it, you have to give it hours for maintenance. And it seems that all this churning and churning for 20 months is causing problems. Let's say within the Merkava tank, the engines are completely German made. I don't know if it's Mercedes, but these parts for maintenance come from Germany. The industrial capacity, and that's not only on this, we're talking about engines, we're talking about a lot of it, even the air defenses. The industrial capacity that was there to be able to replace these things wasn't an industrial capacity that can sustain this amount of demand. And what was been happening is a lack of parts. And also to point out to the air defense systems, these air defense systems now they're focusing on Hats 1 and Hats 2 against the Houthi Ansarullah rockets. And it seems that these systems, like every time there is a rocket coming incoming, they throw in from one location at least six anti missile defense, like rockets or whatever you want to call them. These six, each one of them is $3 million. And that's not the problem, because thank you, Uncle Shmuel, that used to be called Uncle Sam, it will supply the money. But the problem is the industrial capacity of manufacturing enough to keep supplying. Adding to that, the Ukraine war. So we're having problems on that aspect as well. Another problem is the will to fight, the spirit of fighting. These guys do not leave their tanks on the best of days. They don't have the will or the courage or the manhood, whatever, to fight. And now it's getting weaker and weaker. So I see that they're very ambitious in their plan, like extremely delusionally ambitious. And on the other hand, the weaknesses amongst their military apparatus, the spirit of their fighters, the supply chain of replacing and keeping all the the machinery in tip-top shape is all crumbling. And you add to it the public opinion around the world. So they're facing a lot of problems, but this is not the impression you get if you go through the media. And then later we can unpack the strengths of the resistance and actually the axis, how the axis of resistance is coordinating on political level. And I think next time they're not going to let Israel dictate how to corner each part of the axis by themselves. I think they're going to coordinate the retaliation together. Yeah, that's it for now. Thanks.
Thanks,
There's a fourth incident that's just been reported. Same neighborhood, northern Gaza.
What? Explain.
Just another security incident coming in from Israeli media. I don't have any more details than that yet.
Okay, yeah, cool. I'll look into it. And you do as well. Yeah, I can't see anything. But yeah, so there's a fourth incident. That's crazy. They are getting smashed up. This is meant to be like a preemptive strike before they go in, but it's not looking good for the Israelis. 1 second. Somebody jump in.
Not at all, guys. Not at all. You have no idea that Hamas and other two. Like they're not. It's not only one group. There's two main groups, and there's a lot of people. Maybe so. According to the numbers, if we say that 83% of the death toll within Gaza.
Okay, guys, I'm dropping out of that space. These guys know this stuff way better than I do, and it can get kind of monotonous. So I'm going to move on. Hopefully, you all will continue to hang with me because there's some things happening. I want to get into. Get into some other videos. I don't know if I'm going to get into. I might get into the incident with Patrick Bet David tonight. Let's see. Oh, I got it wrong. Yeah. This is, I'm going to delete this. All right, let's see here. I myself have not watched this. I'm assuming you guys can't hear that. Can you all hear that or no? I'm guessing you can't. Is anyone out there still around?